Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to the Beacon of Hope show. Welcome to the Beacon of Hope show. To all my Facebook co-hosts, today we have a special guest. Her name is Tynietta Congo, and she's going to tell us her story, her hope journey, and her hope story. And I hope that this story will be enlightening and will help some of you facilitate some of the curveballs that you're going through in life. Just a little bit about the Beacon of Hope show. The Beacon of Hope show I started last year, January of 2018. And the reason I do this show is just to give people a glimmer into people's journeys. Because all of us have gone through vicissitudes of life. We've gone through curveballs in life, but a lot of these stories are kept within our homes, are kept within our hearts. And a lot of people do not go the next step in sharing what it is they've gone through and also how they navigated that journey successfully. So as you log in, please share this feed because you never know who will be on your news feed. You never know who will be on your timeline that may need to see this story. Another mother who's gone through a loss, a tragedy, may be watching this and need to see Ty's story. Someone else may be going through something completely different, but maybe the insight and the strategies and the tips that Ty gives us today may help them navigate their own pain and navigate it into purpose or turn their mess into message. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and start this live stream. Hopefully, as you guys come in, you're going to go ahead and help us share this feed out. So what do I do now? How I didn't lose my mind after losing my son. That is Ty Congo's new memoir, and I call her Ty, which is short for Tynietta. It's her new memoir of loving and losing her son to gun violence. It is a raw, a very unfiltered, very honest, transparent book. And it talks about her grief process and how she has vowed to transform her pain into purpose and into activism. After Jameil Aikeem Congo and his friend was shot by a mentally unstable man in a senseless act of violence in the city of Wilmington, Delaware, our state of Delaware grieved yet again for the unnecessary loss of life. I believe in 2017, we had a peak in terms of gun violence. In that year, we lost about 197 young people to gun violence within our state. So we grieved again. And I was shocked, just as my coworkers and probably a whole lot of people that knew Ty, that had happened to her. So Ty is here today to go beyond what happened and present her account of dealing with the trauma as a mother and her awakening to a cause that will drive the rest of her days. That's what she's saying. This is my cause. This is my purpose. This is how my son will live on for the rest of my days. The story that she will tell today is less about the social and the political evolution of America's gun culture. It's not about mental health, like, people always talk about mental health around gun violence. It's really, today what we're here to focus on is about the life curveball that she encountered and finding a glimmer of hope even in the storms. Ty is a beacon of life, of hope for life after loss. She's a beacon of hope for triumph after tragedy. She's also a beacon of hope for anyone who has a journey of overcoming great odds to pursue a life of passion, meaning, and service. Ty is a loving mother. She's a grandmother, and she has a passion for ministry, for writing and giving back. And as I said before, she is a native of the great state of Delaware and the city of Wilmington. So good evening, Ty Congo.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. I'm saying we got this. And I know Jameil got you too. So you're not by yourself. He's watching over you and he is so proud of you. So before we go into your story, I want you to just take a moment to introduce yourself to the Hope Hub community and those people who will end up seeing this feed at some point.
Okay, well, my name is Tynietta Congo, affectionately known as Ty. I work for the state of Delaware with you.
Yes.
I have two children. One was killed, and my oldest one lives around the corner from me. Mama's boys don't go too far from home. um, and I was born and raised in Wilmington, Delaware. For a short period of time, I did live in North Carolina, but as you can see, I came back to my home, which is Wilmington, Delaware.
Yes.
So it just seems kind of estranged right now because my son's not here. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's like I'm here, but part of me is gone.
Yeah. Yeah. So, thank you for the full disclosure that we work together. We see each other every day. We get on each other's nerves every day. But, but one thing for sure is that Ty is one of the most encouraging coworkers that I have. Every morning, she skips past my door. The lights are on. She turns them off and leaves me in the dark. She just messes with me so that I can get out of my focus and kind of lighten up my day. So she's that kind of coworker who's always encouraging and speaking life into you and trying to make you smile. So I thank God for coworkers like you, Ty, and for God bringing you into my life. So my role today is to facilitate the telling of her story, but also to guide the discussion in a way that honors the memory of her son. I also want to say that for so many people who are close to Ty, and I'm sure in the community, her church community, including, her pastor, her bishop, that all of us remember and think of your son often. And we know that he's watching over you. And the last year for us has been so inspiring in terms of how you've navigated this situation. So let's start from the day I don't know how far you want to go, Ty, because I didn't discuss this with you. I said just be, tell your truth. So just tell us a little bit about your son and take us back to the day, or maybe a few days after you got the phone call that your son had been shot, and share as much and or as little of the details that you remember.
Okay. Before we get into the incident that
Mm-hmm.
happened,
Yeah.
I just want to share a little bit about Jameil.
Mm-hmm.
Jameil was a very fun, outgoing person. There was not a place that he would go. He didn't know somebody, and it got to the where people were and still are calling me my Congo. And I don't know who half these people are, but they are my son. And so it's just outgoing. He was corny. He loved to make you laugh. And he was very talented. He loved his music. He was writing music. He loved rapping. And he was very family oriented. Um, Now, the day that it happened, I was still home recovering from having shoulder surgery
Yes.
when I got the knock on the door. And my
Mm-hmm.
older son was like, "Who is that banging on the door like they're the cops?" So
Yeah.
I said, "I don't know. I'm gonna go get it." He says, "No, you're not. Not with them banging on the door like that." So
Mm-hmm.
he ran and got the door, and the guy on the other side of the door said, "Your brother has been shot, and he's laying in the street." So my son ran and put on some slippers and threw on a hoodie and ran up the street. But by the time he got up there to where Jameil was, the ambulance had already taken him into the hospital. He actually died on the emergency room table.
Wow.
So he was woke for a little bit. He was able to tell who did it and what happened.
Wow.
Yeah. Um, First couple of days after that was a blur. I'm like, this is not true. My son is not gone. He's running around here somewhere playing one of his practical jokes. He's not gone.
Yeah.
But I thank God for my church family and for my family because they surrounded me. You know, they were here. They were in my face. I couldn't even go to the bathroom without someone standing in the hallway making sure I'm okay. But
Yeah.
um, it was rough. It was rough. And if it wasn't for my Aunt Wendy being by my side, I don't know how I would have got the funeral plan because they would ask me questions and I would just look at her
Right.
and she would take care of everything for me. So, I really thank God that she was there with me.
So for those who don't know the story, can you tell them how it happened? Like, what was the context of the shooting? What caused it?
Okay, Jameil and his friend, there's a sub shop 2 doors down.
Yeah.
And Jameil, his friend, had went in there and ordered some food. And it was too crowded in there because the little corner stores are they pack everything in there.
Yes.
So they ordered their food and they went outside and they sat on a step. Now, before the guy came out and asked them to move, Jameil and his friend had helped the lady take her bags and stuff in the house. And they sat back down on the step. So the guy comes up the street and says, "Get off my step." So Jameil and the guy, they didn't move. They didn't say anything. So the guy went in the house and came back out again and said, "Yo, I said, get off my step." And it was either Jameil or the guy that was with him said, "F you." And the old heads that were out there, the older crowd that was out there started laughing.
Mm.
So the guy got mad because he felt disrespected.
Mm.
So he ran in the house and got his gun and he came back out and shot the both of them. Jameil's friend, he got shot in the head. One bullet, died instantly.
Oh my
Jameil
God.
was shot 3 times
Yeah.
and he died at the hospital.
Yeah. And I
So
know.
it was all over. The thing is, he said he felt disrespected
Just
in front of other people that were out there. So it wasn't even a good reason. They didn't start messing with him or, trying to fight him or anything. He just felt disrespected.
yeah. And how old was Jamil?
23.
23. So that goes to show, I mean, it's heartbreaking in terms of what happens in our communities and the violence in our communities. And some people have this idea in terms of, the people who get shot, and they have, certain stereotypes that they put on people. But as you can see with Ty's son, he wasn't on a corner selling drugs. He wasn't in a gang. He was a father. How many children, Ty?
He has two.
And a wife, and so it's mind boggling, but this is the kind of things that happen in some of our neighborhoods, unfortunately. But part of Tai telling her story was also for her to get the truth out in terms of who her son is, and I'm so proud of you, and I'm glad that you decided you're going to go first, by first telling us who he is, who he was. So it's like, don't get it twisted, I'm his mom, but this is what I want y'all to remember about my son, in this situation. So thank you for your truth in that question. Um, so previous to, sorry, you recently, and it's hard for me not to go back to your book because I read it. It was very emotional. It was extremely, extremely emotional. So I'm trying not to go back and say, what did you mean by this right here?
Go ahead. It's your show. If you
I
want to
can
ask
ask whatever I want to
questions,
ask. Well, because I gave her the questions to prepare, and I kept telling her, Ty, are you ready? Ty, are you ready? And she's like, I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm like, maybe I'm not ready. I'm not ready. But in terms of the hospital experience and the surgeon, one of the things that you say, maybe later on, your brother got shot. I think it was maybe 6 months after your son got shot, your brother also got shot. And the
yeah.
surgeon who worked on your brother was also the same surgeon that worked on your son. And
Uh-huh.
take us through this other family member's shooting, and you sitting in that hospital room, and him coming and telling you that, like, because he dropped that on you and it was unexpected. And I know where in your book you say the air went out of me. What was that about? What was that
The air come because when he said it, it's like my heart literally dropped to my stomach because the first thing I thought was like, oh, you could save my brother, but you couldn't
Yeah.
save my son. How you gonna save one and not the other?
Yeah.
I mean, it's no fair. He's here, but my son is gone.
Yeah.
And that was something that I had to deal with.
Yeah. Like, how was that different? What was different about that day versus this day? And then thinking about my son, younger, my brother, he's old. They're both family members, but at the same time, you're dealing with both of them in terms of their pain. But how's your brother doing now?
He's doing pretty good. He still has his challenges, and I know that I had to deal with how I was feeling so
Mm-hmm.
that I wouldn't take it out on him or his recovery. So
Mm-hmm.
I made it my mission to be his bodyguard. And it's funny because his doctors actually started calling me his bodyguard, and they would come and talk to me instead of him.
Oh,
So, but he's doing pretty good. He's gonna have to have more surgery and stuff, but he's coming along pretty good.
yeah.
Pretty good.
That's great to hear. So, previous to that, because then once I found out that happened to your brother, the other question that I had for you was, had you directly or indirectly experienced an incident of gun violence in your life previous to this in your community
Um,
or? Uh-huh.
Actually, believe it or not, a year before Jameil was shot and killed, he was shot. So yes,
Him?
yeah, he was shot a year before he got killed.
Wow.
He was shot.
That's awful. And so he survived that and then had to then go through another shooting. So the community that you live in, which I'm well aware of, has a high rate of gun violence. Do you plan to pick up that meant the advocacy around gun violence or speak to legislators or ask
Um,
tough questions about this particular neighborhood if you have a son that got shot twice in the same neighborhood?
yes, I do. I'm actually starting a foundation, and
Mm-hmm.
it's called Jameil Aikeem Congo Cares.
Mm-hmm.
And what this foundation is going to do is we're going to support those families affected by gun violence.
Okay.
So what we're going to do, we're going to provide monthly support groups and counseling sessions.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to just target the adults because it affects the children that are in the household
Yeah.
also.
Yeah.
So I have a counselor that specializes in um, grief and trauma in children.
Okay.
So yeah, so she's going to be speaking to the children and working with the children, and I'm actually looking to partner with um, the Wilmington Police Department, the
Okay.
Achievement Center, um, and it's quite a few more that I've been in contact with, and we've been back and forth on. Um, so we're gonna work together in the community to see if we can help alleviate some of this gun violence. And I'll give you an example of why I say that. Last weekend there was a bunch of children like outside my house,
Mm-hmm.
and they were all like gathered around this one little boy, and they were trying to thank this little boy. And I don't know what made me do it, but I ran outside and I snatched the little boy up, and I brought him in my house. And my babe was looking at me like, "What are you doing?" But I couldn't sit there and watch them beat this little boy up.
Yeah.
So I got to talking to him, and coming to find out, he's only 12, and he said this is not the first time that they banked him. 12, and he said that's not the first time. So my thing is, if this boy's getting beat up on a regular and nobody's paying attention and nobody's doing anything, how
Yeah.
long do you think it's going to take before he go out there and get a gun?
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. And we had a conversation about this at work where we were talking about how recently we went through trauma training, trauma informed approach training, and we learned about adverse childhood experiences. And one of the adverse childhood experiences is the incarceration of a parent or the loss of a parent within the household and how that traumatizes kids, but also even the communities that our children live in. If it's an adverse community and these kids are having to
Exactly.
walk through areas where there's shootings, they hear someone died last night, or in their houses they're hearing shootings and they have to dive into a bathroom or into the basement to be safe. All this is traumatizing to children, and it's building up toxins in their biology. Like there's a true biology of science in terms of trauma, that this actually builds up toxins in your system. And then later on, these kids suffer from strokes, from heart disease, from other, so not just the behavioral. like in terms of substance abuse, in terms of alcoholism, in terms of other things that people use to cope. But even just biologically, you find someone dying young of heart disease, stroke, and you're thinking, what happened to them? I don't understand. That's not in my family history. So I'm so thankful because Ty is taking this on in terms of the children, because there, like you said to me, there's not a whole lot of services for kids whose fathers, mothers have gotten shot, or where their fathers, mothers have been incarcerated in the household. Those kids are looking up for help and no one is available, or at least there's not enough resources in our community to help. And so I'm so glad that you're standing up and doing this and literally pulling the kids out of the street into a safe haven, into your home, and taking care of them. And it's more than just one person, Ty. You're going to need a whole village to do this, and everybody.
I have a whole village. Believe me, the church that I go to, Christian Growth Ministries, I had a talk with my bishop about this, and I told him, I said, I'm gonna need the men because we're gonna need mentors.
Yes.
Little boys, and then we also have another person that has a program out here. So I'm linking up with the right people, and we're gonna get it done. And my son's name is gonna be carried on.
Absolutely.
So, but when I was helping that little boy, the only thing I could see was my son's face hollering, Mom, you have to help him. And then it hit my heart so bad because he's 12 and he's the oldest in his household. And his little sister just got out of Rockford.
Oh, no.
Now, he's the oldest and he's 12 and his little sister got out of Rockford. How old is his little sister?
Wow.
See what I'm saying? He has a lot of those aces and trauma that we talk about. And I'm so glad that we took that trauma-informed approach training that we did, because I was able to see a lot of that. And I'm more observant now when I'm dealing with people and when I'm watching the kids out here, because you could tell, just by the way that they act, they're acting out what they see either in school or at home or right there in the neighborhood. Yeah. So, we have to do something.
Yeah.
I pulled some statistics. In 2017, there was 197 instances of gun violence. Of that 197, 32 were killed. And my son was one of the 32.
100 and how many? Can you repeat
32. Out of 197, 32 were murdered.
Oh my God.
And my son was one of the 32.
Oh my gosh.
We can't keep turning a blind ear to this. We can't act like we don't see, them congregating on the corners and doing things like that and act like we don't see it.
Yes.
Or don't want to speak up and say anything.
Right.
And nobody says anything until it hits their doorstep.
That's true. And I think I remember, and I'm not sure where this conversation went. I'm not sure if it was because of your son's shooting previously, before the shooting that took his life. But you constantly were talking about leaving the city or leaving that neighborhood because you just felt like you didn't want to be there anymore. You didn't feel safe staying in those neighborhoods. And I think that's what a lot of people do is like, I got to get up and get out of here. I got to get my family out of here and just, so they leave the neighborhood, but then the toxicity and the issues continue to stay within those neighborhoods. So I think what you're doing is really admirable in terms of you're saying, I'm going to stay here and fight. I'm going to stay here and make a change in this neighborhood.
I know Black people say we don't go to therapy. We go to church. We got Jesus. Yes, we go to church. I am saved. I'm a missionary. I'm an usher. I do it all. But this sister right here goes to therapy. So in that going to therapy, I learned that picking up and running is not going to ease my pain. It's not going to ease my sorrow. It's not going to fill the hole in my heart. It's just running away from it instead of dealing with it. So this is my way of dealing with it. I know my son wouldn't want me sad and crying every day, but want me out here doing something. So this is what I'm doing for him. And this is helping me deal with my hurt. And this is helping me deal with my pain.
I have to bring this up because now that you brought up the therapy, now we got to talk about the therapy. Because I thought this was interesting because, well, you made light of it in the book, talking about now I got to go see a shrink, you know. So what was the difference between the I forget where they sent you first, the name of the organization or the services that they sent you first, and then this group, Healing After Homicide. And I think, was that the group that you ended up going to eventually, or did you start with Healing After Homicide? But I know that you were like, the,
No,
the first group you went to, you said, man,
you're
this ain't
funny.
doing
You're
nothing
really
for me.
digging in that book. You're digging too much into that book. Um, I, I don't want to say that name because I don't want to discourage anyone that's
Okay.
listening, watching that may go there. But
Yes.
I will say I did not connect with the first therapist at all. I mean, if you're going to repeat what I say, then I can talk to myself.
That's what you said. You said she just kept repeating.
I mean, she said, "How are you feeling today?" I said, "I'm feeling fine." She said, "You're feeling fine," and I'm like, "Didn't I just say I'm feeling fine?" You know, and I'm like, I'm not getting anywhere. This isn't
Yeah.
helping me.
Tell me what I just, I think you said, tell me what I just told you. Tell me again what
Yeah, she said everything I said to her, and I'm like, okay,
it's
yeah,
not working.
this is not gonna work.
Yeah. And so you went through this other group. So how was that helpful for you in terms of the therapy and the person you
The
eventually connected with?
the therapy with the other one, she's straightforward and centered. She's
Okay.
not going to join your pity party with you.
Yeah.
She's going to give you a few minutes, give
Mm-hmm.
you a tissue, tell you to get your stuff together, and
Okay.
then when you're ready, then y'all going to deal with the issue.
Wow.
She you have no choice but to deal with them.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, and she does it in such a way you're like, oh my God, how she get me to say that? You know what I mean? But she's just straight forward and
Very
she
helpful.
you deal with your stuff.
So I know that you dealt with it by journaling, and so hence this book. This is really powerful, y'all. Go get this book on Amazon. What Do I Do Now? How I Didn't Lose My Mind After Losing My Son by Tynietta Congo. Get this book because it's powerful. It's a journal. And I guess people say, well, how can you take a journal, all your thoughts, and publish them into a book? But I'm telling you, this is powerful stuff. Even for me, who hasn't gone through this kind of process, for me, there was a light bulb in terms of just the power of putting down your thoughts on paper because it's almost like you're talking to yourself and having a therapy session. So, have you always written, Ty, or was this something new for you?
I've always journaled. I journaled a lot when I was younger,
Okay.
but when Jameil first died, I wasn't journaling anything. I wasn't trying to do anything. But in the therapy, she was like, right. She said you
Okay.
can't sit there with that stuff on your chest.
No.
You have to get it out. So that's what I began to do. I just began to get it out. So when I started journaling my process from the day my son got killed to the day the man got sentenced, I wrote, the things that happened, and then I would put in a journal entry, where I thought it fit.
Yes.
So I didn't share everything, but I shared enough so that you can get a feel and an understanding of like the different steps of grief
Yeah.
that a parent goes through when losing her child tragically like that. And
Mm-hmm.
then it made me think because I have a best friend who found her son face down dead. He had an epileptic seizure and he
Wow.
died. And people used to always tell her, "Oh, it's been a year. You don't need to be trying to more now. It's over. Get over it." And I'm so glad I never said that to her because
Wow.
although it's been 2 years for me,
Yeah.
I couldn't deal with somebody coming to me saying, "Oh, get over it."
Yeah.
You don't get over it. You can live through it,
Yes.
but you'll never get over it.
Good. And even for me reading this, and you talked about us, your coworkers, and how we reacted when you came back to work.
Yeah, you dug too deep into that book.
Anyway, y'all read it. Y'all read it because then you'll see what she says about how we reacted, what she says we shouldn't have done, even though sometimes you think you're doing the right thing. She talks about social media and her expression of her grief over social media and how some people, didn't take too kindly to that. She talks about, reactions like later on, birthdays that come, different family events, and how to react when those things come, and how people sometimes forget your loved one. And well, meanwhile, you're having to go through it's powerful. It's powerful. I'm not gonna go through it. Y'all read it. Okay, so um after the funeral and everything that goes with having to grieve and lay him to rest, you now had to deal with the court case. So and you recently had to face the man who murdered your son in court. What was that experience like? Can you talk to us a little bit about that and maybe about forgiveness? And especially since you said you were able to forgive him on the date that he was sentenced.
That forgiveness part was really, 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 really hard.
Mm,
And that was something that I have been dealing with because I knew that the time was going to come and
yeah,
that was something that I would have to do.
yeah,
So um, it was just hard. So I started reading scripture on forgiveness and meditating on those. And in my prayer time with my prayer partner, I would pray that God help me to deal with forgiveness. And
mhm,
then I'm sorry, every time something would happen um, in an area of forgiveness, it was like when you say you want to do something, you're
mhm,
going to be tested. And I knew that um, I had to forgive. And
yeah,
so little things would happen, like little things would happen at work. And so instead of me going off, I knew that I had to just, pray about it and forgive and just move on. So those little things that happened, they began to prepare me for that. But I still was determined that I wasn't forgiving nobody for nothing
mm-mm,
until that day we went to court. And it's funny because that week up until the day I went, everybody kept asking me, what are you going to say? What are you going to do? And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to say. I'm just going to pray and open my mouth, and
mm,
God's going to give me the word. So, and I said that clear up until I got to the mic, and
yes,
it was my turn to speak. I got up there and I opened my mouth and I said a little joke about Jameil, how he was 5 pounds, 15 ounces when he was born, and he had a big old head, and how the family used to tease him about growing into his head.
yeah,
So everybody got a little chuckle, and then it got real. I I looked at him. I looked at him straight in his eye. I said, I understand that I have to forgive because that's how I was raised, and that's what I was taught in church.
yeah,
So I forgive you, but I need you to understand that this forgiveness is not just for me, it's for you also. It's for
wow,
the other young man's family
mm-hmm,
that, it's for them so that they can be free and so that I can be free. And I said, I'm not sure what type of family dynamics you have,
mm-hmm,
but I'm sure you have someone in your family that loves you. And, this forgiveness is for them as well because they have to live without you.
mm-hmm,
And I don't know if you have children or whatever, but you're going to have to live the rest of your life without seeing your children or anything again. So, in order for me to be free and to move on and to let my son's soul rest in peace, I have to forgive you.
wow, wow. That's
I had to. And it's not for me, it's for him. It's for him. People say forgiveness is for you, and yes, it is.
Yeah.
But that day, standing there, I also learned that forgiveness is for that person as well. Because once they release that, then God can do what God needs to do in them and through them.
Right.
And who knows, whatever's going on with him in behind bars now, God, I do believe that God is dealing with him,
Yeah.
and that he has the ability to turn his stuff around and maybe lead other inmates to Christ. You never know.
Yeah. Wow, that's powerful, Ty. And I thank you also because in your book you give, the different scriptures that you meditated over and over and over again before the court case, just so you could have that right frame of mind for forgiveness and for, talking about the struggle and how hard it was for you to get to that point where you could say, you know what, I forgive you and I release you. And I'm going to leave the rest to God and I'm going to move on with my life and take my path. So, for those people who have gone through trauma, who have gone through tragedy, who've been a victim of something or the other, forgiveness is so key. I know one of our Hope Hub beacons of hope. Her name is Jane Wangi, and she was a survivor of a gun shooting. So she survived, but she was left paralyzed from the chest down. And she said in therapy, her therapist also told her, you have to forgive. And one of the exercises that she had to go through was actually sit in a chair and have a chair in front of her because they didn't catch the guys, but they had a chair in front of her. And she was told to imagine that that person was there and for her to talk to that person and say everything that she felt to him, whatever she needed to say, anger, cry, whatever. But at the end, she had to release it. And so, I think it's so important for all of us who are going through to release. And whatever the situation is, it doesn't have to be this traumatic. Even the little things that you need to forgive people in your family, do it for you. But as Ty has said, do it for them as well, and their own process and their own experience, and then leave it to God and move on another path. So I know that you've moved on to working on your foundation. Every day she comes and she gives me an update of all the things that she's been doing and telling me, you need to work on the Hope Hub. What did you do? And so it's like this whole comparison thing where she's like, I did this. And I'm like, wow, Ty, I need to do better. But so what is giving you your drive? What is it that in this season is like just, it seems like you have this push behind you, this wind that's just propelling you? Is it because the court case is over and you feel free from that to move on? What is it?
God is the wind beneath my wings,
Woo!
pushing me forward. Like I said, I have a great, great, great support group in my family
Yeah.
and in my church family. And the thing that drives me the most is when I turn my back on them, they never turn their back on me.
Oh,
When all that stuff happened with Jameil and I needed my pastor and my bishop, they was right there. Johnny on the spot. Ain't asked no questions. Ain't say, where you been? You ain't been to church. And then, they were there. And they've been there for me every step of the way. They helped me walk through this process. And I just, my desire for God and the thing God started to grow more.
yes.
So with that, I'm like, okay, I can't keep having memorial services.
Yeah.
I can't keep standing over a grave when I know that my son's not there, because the word says to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. So I know where my son is.
Yes.
So why am I going to keep standing over a grave? What am I going to do to honor him other than just standing there crying?
Mm-hmm.
If my son was standing here right now, he'd be like, girl, if you don't wipe some tears and get yourself together. So if by me helping others and keeping my son's name alive that way and bringing a difference to the community, then that's what I'm going to do.
Wonderful.
I can't see myself sitting here mourning anymore. And I'll tell you what, when I forgave him, I forgave myself as well.
Wow.
And once I did that, you know how you take a deep breath
Mm-hmm.
and then you exhale?
Yeah.
I felt like the weight of the world was lifted off my shoulders once
What did
I
you
forgave.
forgive yourself of? What were you forgiving yourself of, if I may ask?
From, grief is heavy. Grief and mourning is heavy, especially when you lose your child. So, it took everything I had just to get up in the morning. And it took more energy to go to work and deal with you. And it was a lot. But and I know I was holding on to anger, I was holding on to rage, I was holding on to bitterness.
Yeah,
I told somebody, I said, I want to go down to that prison and I want to talk to that man and I want to know why he did what he did.
yeah.
Because he's in his 40s. My son was only 23. You couldn't handle that situation any better than what you did. I mean, and then even when I first stood up there to speak, I'm thinking, you have like the devil on one side and the angel
Yeah.
on the other. I'm sitting there, let me take that flash. I said, if I could just get my hands on the bailiff's gun. But
Oh,
then that leave me. I mean,
yeah,
I went through so many emotions in that time. I was just standing there at that podium. But, I heard God say, daughter, you know what you got to do.
yeah.
So I did it.
Wow, that is powerful, Ty. In the last, because we completely went off script, is there anything you wanted to share? I know I had asked you if you have any strategies for mothers who are right now going through this. That was one of the things that I had asked. Is that something you feel you've not covered, or that's
For,
something?
for I would say for anybody who has lost a loved one, whether it be by gun violence, car accident, or natural causes, allow yourself the time that you need to grieve.
Yeah.
If you're having a moment, have that moment.
Mm,
Just when that moment is over, you have to keep going. You have to keep going. I know it's hard. And each day, each step gets a little better. But even now, even though I'm moving forward, I still have my moments. I had a major moment the other day. I just locked myself in the bathroom, went through what I needed to go through, wiped my tears, got it together, and kept on moving.
wow. Wow. Thank you for that. I had also asked you for a quote or a scripture that keeps you going. Would you like to share?
My favorite scripture, believe it or not, is Psalms 91 and 1. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. And that's where I abide, under his shadow. And that's how I get through. Because if I have to depend on me, you wouldn't see me at work. So it's his strength, his will, his might. I give him me, and he gives me him every morning. Okay, God, this is me. I'm awake now. I did my part. I need you.
Amen.
Because if you don't, I can't get through this day.
Anything without him. Wow. So this book,
Oh Lord, I
I
picked
know
up the
you
book
told me
again.
not to say anything, but I know I wanted to say at the back of the books she has poetry in there. The poems that
Well, because
those
I'm gonna tell you a little secret. Now I'm
okay.
gonna tell you a little secret, and those that are watching it, because I didn't have enough pages, and I didn't want to write anymore about what I went through,
Okay.
because I felt what I said was enough. So
Yeah.
I just threw a couple of poems in there just to kind of,
Just
um,
a couple.
yeah.
I didn't know you wrote poetry. This poetry is so beautiful. And so I want to close.
The one that's called "I Saw Him." I wrote that for Jameil. That was an actual dream that I had.
Oh, wow. Okay, y'all will have to read this book and read the poetry. But my favorite one, let me just read my favorite one, if you don't mind, because this is the end of our show, or at least the one that impacted me the most. It's called Changing Seasons,
I
and
put that in there. Oh, okay.
yeah,
Uh
it
huh.
says every 3 months, 4 times per year, the seasons change, but one thing remains clear. My love for you only grows with each season of every year. The leaves may turn, winds will blow, my love will always be here, even through the falling snow. When the sun shines bright and my skin begins to tan, by your side is where I will always stand. Sitting by the fireplace, listening to the crackle of the wood, There is no place I'd rather be. Staring into your eyes is so mesmerizing. As the birds fly through the air, singing songs of love in the springtime, I thank the Lord that you are mine. The seasons change, but my love will always remain the same. I loved that one. Just
Um,
because I think it speaks to embracing the seasons of your life. And, like I was telling you previously, I was saying to you, this book and what you're going through now with the foundation, it's a new season, it's a new chapter. You basically said, I've wiped my tears off, I'm washing my face. I'm putting on my garments of praise. You're doing your ministry thing, and you're starting a whole new lease on life, and you found new purpose. Even when I see you, you're smiling brighter. You just look so much more happier, and I couldn't be more happier for you. So, as a last statement, what I wanted to say is I think what you're doing is sorely lacking in many communities. People who stand up and speak up in our community are very rare to find nowadays. And I know that the club that you now belong to is um, a club that no one wants to belong to, in terms of mothers who have gone through the loss of their children through gun violence or for any other reason. And though your child was taken away in a senseless act of violence, his memory will live on through your activism and the life of his children. He has gorgeous children. Her grandbabies are beautiful, all of them. So you are a beacon of strength and hope for many. And I thank you for joining me today, Tynietta Congo. If you haven't already done so, please read and get Ty's book. You can tell us where you can find your book and the name of your foundation, how people can contact you, all of that good stuff.
the name of my foundation is Jameil Aikeem Congo Cares. I actually have a Facebook page, so you can find some information there. If you want more information, you can email me at Jameil Aikeem Congo Cares at gmail.com. I am having a book signing on May 18th at our church's Rock the City 2.0 concert. So if you're not doing anything, May 18th, come out and rock the city with us as we rock on for the Lord. Christian Growth Ministries, 850 North Church Street, Wilmington, Delaware. Don't meet me there, beat me there.
Awesome.
That's where I'll be doing my book signing. But you can find me on Jameil Aikeem Congo Cares on Facebook.
Like
and yeah.
And Instagram. She's
Oh
there.
no, I'm not on. I don't have an Instagram for Jameil yet. I have to do that.
Oh, for Jameil, but you do have a personal one because I tagged you this.
Tynietta 39.
Yes, yes.
Tynietta 39 on Instagram, and I'm on Facebook. What is my name on Facebook? Tynietta Congo.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have I don't do all that changing names and all that. I love my name, so yeah. I need everybody else to love my name too.
Yes. And get the book. The lady
Get the book.
But get the book and have it signed.
If you have it already, please go on my foundation page and write a review for me.
Oh,
thank
awesome.
you. Love you.
All right, great. I'll do that. Thank you so much, Ty. God bless you. Thank you, all of you who watched the Hope Hub. I didn't see any questions, but y'all were listening patiently. Thank you for sharing the video. God bless you all. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
You're welcome.